Through conversations with donors and reflections on my own giving, I've come to think of a philanthropic compass that points to 4 different but interrelated motivations for giving. I find that giving proceeds from the donor's deepest hopes, enduring values, faithful risks, and heartfelt gratitude. I pastored a congregation in Milwaukee for many years. My favorite window from the sanctuary showed the shepherds at just that moment when they have heard of Jesus' birth, but are not there with him in Bethlehem. The shepherds have hope, but have not realized their vision yet. The donor inscription from 1917 reads, in honor of Dr. Sarah Monroe, presented by her friend, Emily Greenleaf. Dr. Sarah Monroe died in 1914 at a time when the defining love of her lifetime could only be known as friend. That she and Emily hoped. 100 years after her death, the Federal District Court of the Western District of Wisconsin ruled the state's ban on same-gender marriage violated the U.S. Constitution. Within hours, couples who had waited years to marry came to the courthouse. My own friend of 20 years, Jay, and I were among those married that day. Throughout the weekend, I married many couples within my church, and on Sunday we gathered beside Sarah and Emily's window, celebrating a hope long held, realized at last. We hold deep hopes that may never come true in our lifetime. We hope in what yet may be. Sarah and Emily gave not because of what the church was, but because of what they hoped it would become. Many planned gifts come from that same spirit, a gift because of what we hope will be true in the world. Generosity involves the stewardship of hope over time. It means working on problems that are larger than what I can do on my own, larger than what I can solve in a year. It means working together over time to make a just world for all. About the same time as Sarah and Emily's gift, the daughter and grandson of Marcia Bryant Wells gave funds for a gymnasium at the church. But this family didn't make the entrance of the gym through the church. No, the main entrance to the gym stood on its own. They wanted the church to be trustees of their commitment to youth and young adults in the community, a gift given to the church so the congregation could serve others. True to the family's intention, the gym remains a vital resource for youth and young adults well beyond the church, including an addiction support group for young men. They gather to play basketball and then meet for their 12-step program, a combination that works particularly well for the young college students who live around the church. Generosity involves the stewardship of values over time. It means giving in a way that moves our values forward, but allows a future generation flexibility in figuring out how to live those values out. The Wells Norris family valued youth and young adults, but could not have anticipated a basketball-themed 12-step group. People who make planned gifts trust our congregations to steward their values. At the same time, planned gifts involve the stewardship of risk. Recently, Michael, a donor to a small rural church, summed this up for me when he explained his motivation for giving, saying, "The COVID pandemic taught me that the future is unpredictable. Tomorrow is uncertain. I don't know what will happen to me, to the church, our country. While I can't be sure of future events, I do know certain truths. In this congregation, I'm among a circle of friends who are committed to caring for others, helping one another, and supporting everyone in our community. My planned gift is an investment in an uncertain future." Many people make a planned gift out of the same motivation as Michael. They take a faithful risk on the church. And perhaps most importantly, philanthropy comes as the stewardship of gratitude. Congregations can deeply impact someone's life in ways that we may not always be aware of. My congregation once received an estate gift from a woman who last attended our congregation 30 or 40 years before she died. And yet, because of the importance of the congregation in that particular moment of her life, she remembered us long after she moved away. Planned gifts express gratitude. More recently, a congregation I worked with received a gift from a woman named Val. Val didn't have children of her own and had lived as a widow for over 20 years. The church was her family. During her lifetime, Val gave a couple $100 a year to the church. That's what she could afford. But in her will, Val split her estate between the church, another charity, and her nephew. The nephew, when he heard about the bequest, turned it down, saying, "Church meant everything to Aunt Val. You can have my portion." The nephew understood his aunt's enduring gratitude for her church family, and that's what we can all know about planned gifts. They come from a stewardship of gratitude. These four aspects of generosity can be important in several ways. First, gather your own stories about past and present donors whose commitment reflects one point on the compass of philanthropy. You can tell these stories in ways that invite people to see their place in the generosity of your congregation, to inspire their own giving. Second, you can use these aspects of generosity to prospect for potential donors. Each of these speak to motivations for giving. Who would connect with a particular aspect of generosity? Who is particularly proud of a risk the congregation took? Who is particularly grateful for the congregation? Who is impacted by the hopes and values of your church? The first names you think of are probably the first people to speak to about making a planned gift. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, keep these four aspects of generosity in mind as you listen to donors. Hear their hopes and values and risks and gratitude. Listen to how your potential planned givers orient their philanthropy.